Alan Hewson.
Alan Houston,
Brian
yeah.
McKechnie, mate.
Yeah, Alan Hewson kicked.
Brian McKechnie.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. Brian McKechnie.
Also based around delivery. Same bloke.
Yes. Isn't that interesting how he's gone through a lot of controversy, there's been a bit of controversy, obviously he's a great sportsman, but, he's been involved in a number of the most controversial things that happened in the 80s. There, AJT. That's an interesting one.
Probably the two most controversial
Yes,
things in New Zealand.
in New Zealand's history. Yes.
Given the profile of cricket and rugby back home there.
So it's interesting that he was involved in both incidents. I think that was really quite interesting, to be quite honest. Very interesting.
That man should never buy a beer again.
But I really enjoyed watching that program. You can go on YouTube and watch it if you're or so inclined. I dare say Ra Walker probably won't. But what was interesting to me, anyway, JT. Now I'm not sure if it's well known over there, but I remember back in the 80s hearing about what's now called Bodyline. It's a legendary, tour that happened back in the 1930s. Now, I remember seeing, I think it was a mini-series back in the 80s that was about Bodyline, and I just remember watching that and just how interesting that was and the way that the English won that entire series. But boy, they were vilified by the Australians and even by those back in England. Do you remember any of that or know of anything like that, do you?
Definitely, it was to combat Donald Bradman. They couldn't get him out on the previous tour. He basically single-handedly won the Ashes for Australia. So they came out with a plan to bowl short pitch deliveries down the leg side aimed at the batsman's head and stack the field. So they had a man down at fine leg and man at sort of backward square, sort of behind the wicket when the hook shots played.
Yeah,
and it worked. I think Harold Larwood was the name of the English skipper who
Larwood.
He might have been the bowler.
I think he was the bowler. Jardine. Somebody Jardine.
Douglas Jardine was the captain, that's right.
Right. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I remember, and it's quite historic. And obviously, I guess it's something that, I don't know if it's, if it's a big mark in the in cricketing history over there, but I know it's certainly a big thing. It must be a big thing over there,
it is here because it involves Australia and it involves them being on the side. So it's like us in the underarm situation.
Yeah,
the role was in the bodyline saga for them. And in fact, if we touch again on that underarm, it was called the biggest controversy in cricket since bodyline.
Yes,
so
right.
Basically, prior, nothing had gone down in cricket untoward, and then all of a sudden the underarm came along. And here we are, 37 years later last year, and they stripped Bunnings of all the sandpaper they got and sharpened the ball up with it, whatever they did. So,
yeah,
mate, sport and controversy never too far apart from each other, especially if you're a rugby league fan, hey, Reno?
Yeah, you tell me about it. Tell me about it these days, eh, mate? And then whether you're out there doing adult movies, who knows? Ask Dylan, he'll tell you.
Oh, they're making adult movies now, are they? Oh.
Unless your name's Ben Barber and you got nowhere else to bloody go but hide under a rock.
Oh, well, interesting indeed. We've spent almost the whole time talking about cricket. Love it. I don't think we've done this forever on Fulltime. Let's talk a bit of rugby league. Of course, we've got the Indigenous All-Star and the Māori All-Stars game coming up Friday. Hey, this coming Friday. Boy, got to be looking forward to that, JT?
Yeah, of course, mate. It's getting towards that time of the year again where the temperatures are supposedly meant to drop, and that brings on the onset of autumn and the start of rugby league. So, yeah, mate, this will be a cracking way to get the season launched.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the Māori have the slight advantage in the forward pack, definitely. So, but in the Indigenous side, they're going to need a new fullback because I think Ben Barber's not allowed to play anymore. So, yeah, mate. Just can't wait. Clash of two cultures. A lot of controversy. Once again, there's that word surrounding the selections and the Māori, in particular of James Tamo, and also to a degree young Kalen Ponga. But mate, in my opinion, they've got Māori blood in them.
Yep.
They're eligible.
Agreed.
whoever's throwing the darts out there, get over yourself.
Yeah, and there's quite a few, and this is what, I'm not saying it's upsetting, but, there seems to be quite a few people that just can't get over the fact that they're in that team, and I don't know what it is about it. What do you think about it, JT, about all this harking on about James Tamo and Ponga being in the team? What's going on?
I think Tamo has copped quite a bit of criticism because he turned his back on the Kiwis.
Yeah.
It was quite a well publicised event at the time. Ricky Stewart approached him and said, "Mate, do you want to play State of Origin for New South Wales?" And at that time, the eligibility criteria was still a bit grey, as I think it is now for State of Origin. And he said, "No worries," and he signed up and played, and then played for Australia in the World Cup later on that year in 2013. And so he made his bed and he lay in it. But let me just say this: if someone's offered $50,000 to play a game and 3 of those games a year,
Yep.
it's pretty hard to turn down, mate.
Yes.
And he turned his back on New Zealand, not on the Māori. He's trying to maybe make up for that now. And who wouldn't want to play for these people, mate?
Exactly.
I personally would rather play for the Māori than the Kiwis, but that's just me.
Mm.
And there's a couple of guys also in there, Dane Gagai, who's come out, no one's really criticised him.
No.
And also Jordan McLean, the ex-Storm prop, he's in there as well. He's born and raised in Australia, but I think it's his father is Māori.
Okay.
So, there's 4 guys in there that have made themselves available for Australia. Does that make them less Māori? Hell no.
No, not at all. Not at all. What's your take on it there, Ra?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, you are what you are, and if they do have Māori blood, well, you can't ever take that away from them. So
No.
I think regardless of if they have represented another country and not the country that, a lot of people would expect them to play for, I think, you've got to go back with that song. Don't forget your roots. Go back to your roots, which, as I say, the Indigenous roots are Māori. So, hey, it's a Māori team. So I can't really see the problem. It doesn't matter if you're staying on Mars or in Sydney. You go back to your foundation. So, and, that's good. I like the novelty aspect of it all. It's going to be an interesting game. I think people should just sort of, just sort of take it for what it is. It's going to be a feast of full-on entertainment. And, if I'm being honest, I don't really care who wins, even though I want our Māori team to win. But I'm just going to be watching it just for the spectacle of football. I mean, Indigenous cultures play that sort of running, hard, physical style. So it'll be no different during the game.
Indeed. You got to be looking forward to it too, Reno?
Yeah. I can't wait for it, mate. I've been anti about this game since middle of last year when they spoke about it. The women's team playing first and foremost, and the men's team. I just think, bro, personally, my opinion, those people who write up those horrible comments about the whole debacle of it need to pull their heads out of their backside and take a look around, because the whole big picture is about the Indigenous people. The game is part of this as well. And anything that seems to happen, we've just been through that with Waitangi of Wednesday. Anything of the Indigenous culture that happens anywhere in the world sparks up a lot of social media coverage. I just have to wonder whether these people that do this stuff have the surname Brash, because it buggers me off. Big picture for me, mate. It's the game. It's the game. And if they choose to play for whatever team they want to play, that's their opinion. They're allowed to do what the hell they want to do. They can't be governed by people typing up and being keyboard warriors. They can all go get stuffed, and all I want to do is watch the game and bring on the NRL season. Look, I've missed rugby league for a few months. I've watched a bit of Super League, early hours of the morning. So I'm getting ready for an exciting season. I know you are, Keithy, with the Warriors, and you've got big plans on that. But, yeah, it's the start to the NRL season. Bring it on. I can't wait, and many more weeks to come. When it gets down to October, looking to the end of October, I was sitting there going, oh, God, now, what the hell am I going to watch now? Oh, no, the World Cup. So, yeah. So, no, bring it on, man. I can't wait. Can't wait to see the girls out there again, and another exciting season of NRL, and a lot more to talked about on Fulltime, no doubt. So, yeah, mate, bring it on. Can't wait.
And on that, we're going to go to a break. We'll be back with more Fulltime right after this. On behalf of the Full-Timers, I would just like to say big thanks to Joachim Currid, who brings us our music intro. Check him out on joachimcurrid.com. He's also on YouTube, Twitter, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Spotify, Instagram, and follow him on Facebook. Another big thanks goes out to Silent Partner, who brings us our outro. Check out their music on YouTube. And also thanks must go to the Polish Ambassador for the backing music for this promo. Check out the Polish Ambassador on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Beatport, Instagram, Twitter, and on his website, thepolishambassador.com.
You're listening to a podcast produced by Turangi FM, number one iwi radio station in Aotearoa. We play each full-time session on Turangi FM Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. You can listen in live on our Turangi FM media page. Just click the main Turangi FM logo to tune in online. Or if you're in the Gisborne area, we're on the radio frequencies 91.7, 95.7 and 98.1. Also check out the Full-Time Facebook page where you can listen to the podcast again. Make comments and click links that will lead you to other ways to listen to the podcast, such as Spreaker, iTunes, SoundCloud, Twitter, YouTube, Podchaser and Tumblr. Right, let's get back to the Fools on Full-Time.
Back to our second session here on Full Time. Want to send a shout out once again to our sponsors, Racecrack Motors, down there on Grey Street. Now, with this Indigenous game, I just want to sort of like end things off with this Indigenous game because there are a lot of people that just don't seem to get it, and a lot of them are probably Aussies, JT. Now, I remember there was an Indigenous game, held. This was a few years ago, and one of the one of the players, I can't really remember his name, but he was doing like a spear throwing sort of thing. I guess you would call it like what we would do for a haka, I guess. And he seemed to get, I don't know, some girl sort of, some little girl kind of raciously said something and that, and then a lot of, dare I say it, white people got on the bandwagon about, him having to being allowed to celebrate in that particular way in an Indigenous game. Do you remember that at all? I think it was one of those Aussie rules games. Do you remember that at all there, JT?
Yeah. I think you're probably meaning, was Adam Goods, possibly?
Yes, that's it. Adam Goods, yes.
Yep.
And this was a few years ago, I will admit.
I mean, gotten through Australia Day relatively unscathed, but all that sort of stuff is always going to be simmering. I want to say just below the surface, but certainly on the surface. It's probably racism here. It's quite rife. All new arrivals, apart from the first fleet of convicts and settlers, or whatever you want to call them, probably didn't experience racism. But you go back through history, the arrival of the Greeks, the Italians, in the early part of the last century. Up out with and then the Vietnamese that came out of the war, and then even us as a people, we still get a bit of flack, but and now it seems to have moved on to the those from Islamic countries. But those things with Australia, mate, and the poor old Aboriginal, the first people here, the First Nation, the first Australians have always copped it, and old our fairer skinned cuzzy bros here just don't seem to get it, which is a sad thing, but. Mate, and that Adam Goods thing was an absolute joke. There's a girl who called him a baboon, I think, from the crowd, and he called her out and got her booted out of the game, and it just blew up a big storm of the brown stuff. And like I say, mate, it's just one of those things that I can't understand. I don't give a stuff where you're from, mate. People are people to me. You treat me good, I'll do the same to you. So. Yeah, unfortunately, this is the way it is with some people.
True indeed. Now, Reno, well, with the Indigenous game getting going, I suppose, on Friday, It'll be followed pretty closely, I dare say.